So, welcome to Don't Follow the Shepherd. I have with me today a guest, Fiona Roddy, who's in Ireland. Um, I don't know that I've ever had a guest from Ireland, so I'm excited to have her here. Um, but trauma does not discriminate. And so she is a wellness coach with a lot of lived experience, training, and is going to share with us a bit about her story. And it's one of perseverance and resilience. And it doesn't parallel mine exactly, but there's some similarities. And when you have adverse childhood experiences, um, I think that a lot of people can resonate and relate. So why don't you introduce yourself a bit and then maybe go a little bit into your history, and then we'll talk about what adverse childhood experiences kind of encompass, because both of us have experienced them.
Well, hi. Thank you so much, Jordan, for having me today. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Yes, I'm over in Ireland. So if I'm your first guest from Ireland, I'm quite happy about that. So thank you. So I I suppose my experience was as a child, I was sexually abused by my uncle, which of course that led into my teenage years, self-harming with eating disorders, mental illness that was very hard to deal with as I got older. In my early 20s is when I started remembering all the abuse and all the trauma started to come into the surface. So that was in my 20s. As then the years went on, I was trying to heal, counseling, coaching, um, anything that would help me. There was some lows, some highs, a lot of tears, a lot of happy tears along the way as well. So I'm at a stage now in my life where I'm helping people. So I have got through my journey. So what I want to do now is put back into the world what I was given through my healing journey, through some fantastic counselors and coaches and people that helped me along the way. So I want to give back a little bit of that love, a little bit of that support to other women that are on a healing journey at the minute. They may be in a very quite dark place and they're not sure where to go, what to do to help themselves. So I'm here to give my experience, how I got through it, and hopefully get some women to the other side where I am right now, which is a very happy, light place. And I see a future for myself.
Yeah, thank you for that. Before we talk about adverse childhood experiences or more examples of them, generally speaking, um, I think one of the things that's tough is that you come out of some traumatic event, whether it's an acute event or if it's relational trauma, and the sequelae, like the anxiety, the depression that people face, it doesn't put you in a place where you're like, oh, I'm going to jump out of this and be healthy or try to get help. Part of the part of the experience is to be paralyzed by anxiety, perhaps, or um, isolating because of depression. And so you've got to not only take on trauma recovery, but you've got to be able to break out of the difficult circumstances that followed the traumatic event and the psychopathologies that persist. And so, um, first of all, I'm not a clinician. I'm just talking from lived experience. Uh, so that's why it's commendable when someone makes that journey, because sometimes, particularly if there's relational trauma involved, you aren't getting support from the people around you, the people, let's say people traumatized you. In your case, they did sexual trauma, but it's like they're going to gaslight you. They're not going to support you in your healing process. So you've also got to overcome those barriers. So, so why don't we talk a little bit just generally? Maybe you want to speak of examples of adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, as people call them. I mean, I think that what's interesting is even birth order can that's subtle, right? But that can be an adverse child experience. Being in a family of 10 siblings can be considered an adverse childhood experience. So throw on layer on top of that more acute trauma or more disturbing experiences, far more disturbing experiences. And you can imagine that people are dealing with a lot of things at once. So feel free to share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I know for me, I think my trauma started a long time before the sexual abuse by my uncle. Because from a very young age, I remember like I never had a relationship with my mother. So I think my trauma started off from a maybe, as far as what I can remember, about 5 years old. I was always told I should have never been born. I would get treated like I was like an alien. I got treated like everything would be my fault. My mother was dealing with a lot of nerve issues. And I think she didn't know how to be a mother to me. I was her firstborn. And I've learned through my healing about the generational trauma. And I have learned from that I think my mother just didn't know how to be a mother to me. So that started from a very early age for me. So I think I kind of was in survival mode from about 5 to 6 years old. Then we got to the age of 9 years old when the abuse started with my uncle. And that went on until I was 11 years old. So sorry, can you just repeat the question that you asked me there, Jordan?
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, just no, you were answering it, but there are examples of maybe you've encountered some women recently that have different stories, but they're all traumatic. For example, parents can be doing a great job, but let's say a parent has a stressful job and another kid in the family has a disability, and so that other child doesn't benefit from the attention they need. And it's no one doing any intentional harm, but that in itself is a trauma. In your case, you dealt with more overt things, but you also talked about your mom. She was dealing with her first child, and she either may have been doing her best or not been able to do her best, but she also had health issues. So what I'm trying to convey to audiences is that it's not always the intent. It can be inadvertent neglect because of life circumstances. So there's a whole assemblage of behavior or lack thereof that can contribute to childhood trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. Because in my situation, because I was the first born, I don't think she knew how to be a mother, because she's very cold, no emotions, no feelings, nothing ever was showing. But then it's when my sister, she's a few years younger than me, her experience was completely different with our mother. She had a relationship. She didn't see the side of things that I seen. She grew up completely with a different childhood when it to my mother. But I have learned that through generational trauma that I always blame my mother for not being a mother, and I thought she just hated me. And I didn't understand why she picked on me not to be a mother, and she was able to be a mother to my sister. So for me, for a very, very long time, it was like I was so angry with her, thinking, I've never had a mother daughter relationship. And to this day, I still don't. That is trauma alone, never mind anything else going on. That's very, very difficult, especially for a daughter, a mom and a daughter, because I see my friends and they have fantastic relationships with their mothers. You know, they go shopping, they go eating, they go on holidays. And that's something that I've never had. But also, when you flip it over, it's also, I've never had it. So it's something I can't really miss, if you get what I'm saying.
Hmm.
So even that alone, for like a daughter to experience that, having no mother, like that's devastating trauma. That's very, very hard to deal with, very, very hard to get over. Like, I've done a lot of healing, but around the area of my mother, I still have a lot to do. But I am more understanding of where she was at in her health. So as I'm getting older and I'm learning more and more about generational trauma, and maybe she wasn't mothered properly by her mother, so maybe that's why she didn't know how to mother me. So I am learning about this. It is a concept as well, but I'm doing my best to kind of see it from her side, also my side, and kind of meet in the middle a little bit, just to kind of, I suppose, have my mind more at ease than my mind going crazy all the time, wondering why she wasn't a mother to me. So I think by me meeting her halfway and understanding from her side, not just my side, it is bringing a little bit more peace to my life.
Yeah, so it's such a common thread. People need to sometimes be reparented with the help of a therapist, but you're right. One sibling may not understand that they were parented differently. You can be in the same household and have completely different experiences. And the problem is that when people are looking at their early years and reflecting on any negative or positive experiences, they often find that uh, they themselves, um, you know, well, they may look for support from their siblings, and their siblings may say, "I don't know what you're talking about." And they may not actually be gaslighting you. Sometimes they may be. They may not be gaslighting you, but sometimes they are. But if they're not gaslighting you, it's simply because they truly had a different experience. And so, what's crazy to me, having had a lot of therapy, is that you sometimes, well, first of all, you need to find the right therapist. But when someone goes into therapy and the therapist may not have lived experience, or they may not see the picture, they may be trauma informed, but they may not understand family dynamics or narcissistic family systems or alcoholic family systems, and they completely miss the boat. And someone who's been scapegoated may be further scapegoated inadvertently by the therapist, because they're like, "Oh, you are the what we sometimes call the child who is, oh, I'm missing the term for it all of a sudden, but there's a term for kind of the the designated, not just the scapegoat, but kind of like the designated problem child or the designated sick child, right? Emotionally unwell child. And so this is problematic because it's perpetuated. And if you don't have the therapist who recognizes that there's a family dynamic, you can go for years getting the wrong advice.
Mhm.
And that to me was really quite disturbing. So that's how I kind of went on my journey to kind of learn more about how family systems operate. And, not everything is intentional, but some things or many things can be harmful. So, um, so how did you end up coping uh, initially when you coming out of that situation? Well, first there was your mom and then your uncle.
Yeah, so just go back there to what you said about counseling and having the right fit for you, the right counselor. When I started my counseling first, when I started to remember the abuse when I was, I think, 21, 22 years old, I went to a counselor. I was going to this counselor for 6 years, and I was no better after 6 years than the first day I walked in through the door. I just didn't click with that counselor. I don't think they had the experience of what I was going through. They just weren't the right fit for me. But because I didn't know anything about it at the time, I just kept going with it. But after 6 years, and it was only because I moved to a different town that I got a new counselor, and then it was like a completely different game. It was like straight away within months I was stronger. I was able to report the abuse. So having the right counselor is one of the most important things when you're going to therapy. It's you need to click with that therapist, they need to click with you. So that's just one thing that I cannot stress enough to people when they are going to seek help from a professional, is to really find somebody that works for you, because otherwise it's going to be a waste of years, just like my years were wasted, those 6 years. But going back to what you just asked me there, how did I deal with it? Wow. When I started to deal with it, it was in my early 20s. Um, at the time, it felt like I was hit by 1,000 moving trains at once. My life was turned upside down, inside out. I didn't know if I was coming or going. So, of course, I did the usual things that traumatized people do. I started drinking, first of all, and that numbed the pain, that numbed it for a few hours. Then, as the time was going on, when alcohol didn't do the job anymore, it was I turned to, say, taking ecstasy pills, speed, any kind of drug like that, recreational drug that I could get. And that did work for quite a while. At the time, it worked. But of course, a few days later, everything was back again. So that went on for a period of time until I started to realize that this is not working. This is making me worse. This is actually making me worse. And if I carry on down this road, I'll probably end up dead somewhere with an overdose of something, or alcohol poisoning, or something else happening to me. And I was so lucky at that time because I had two sons, which were 6 years old, and sorry, 5 years old, and maybe one and a half. So even though I was going through all this trauma stuff, I also had my two sons. So I had to get them to play school. I had to get up every morning to feed them. So I had to take care of them. So I really feel that if I didn't have my two sons through those years, I wouldn't be here right now talking to you. I wouldn't care, because they made me care to get up the following morning, even though I'd be hungover or I'd be feeling so ill. I still got up and did that. So if I didn't have my two sons, I wouldn't be here now. So they were a blessing in disguise at the time, even though at the time I didn't see that, but now I see that. So once I started realizing, okay, Fiona, this is making you worse. This is just prolonging the pain because you're not actually dealing with anything. You're just numbing everything. So, and that's completely normal for something that I've been through, and I knew that. But as the time goes on, I was seeing everybody else like be able to go to their jobs, been happy, going on holiday, living a life, and I was sitting there like in this bubble of darkness, and it was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm slowly killing myself. So I decided then, okay, Fiona, you need to start doing something because you can't keep carrying on the way you are. You can, but it's not going to serve you. You're going to just be worse. So I thought then, okay, my mind was in such a state. I knew I wasn't able to fix that. Like, so that would take a lot of time. I understood that. But my physical body, I thought, okay, so I decided then to get into exercise because I would be looking after my body. And once you look after your body, then everything else kind of will fall into place. So there was days that, of course, I didn't want to do exercise. There was days I loved doing exercise. So each day was a struggle. Each day was a different day. So when I eventually got into exercise and learning about it, I absolutely loved it. It was like this was meant for me. You know, I loved it. I loved the feeling you had afterwards. I love the kind of little bit of discipline I had to get up and say, okay, I'm going to the gym today. I had a little bit of order in my life. And so I was thinking, okay, this is good. This is good. And I started to feel a little bit better. So as the years were going by, I think it was one day in the gym, one of my friends in the gym said, oh my God, Fiona, you're here so much. You may as well work here. This would be perfect for you. Would you not maybe do this as a job? And I never thought of this before. I was just thinking of me training, but me training other people, I'd never come into my head until that my friend said to me, Fiona, why don't you be a trainer? You're fantastic. Look, you know everything, you've learned everything yourself. So that was like a little light bulb going off in my head, going, wow, okay. So I went and I got the money together to pay for my course. I went and did my personal training fitness instructor course, got qualified, and then I started training people in gyms and doing my own classes, which was amazing. It completely perked me up. My mental state was slowly getting better. The anxiety, the depression, the wanting to drink, wanting to take drugs, that all kind of fizzled away a bit. I started feeling better in myself. I started feeling that little bit of happiness again. So I did that for quite some time. I worked in different gyms, taught classes in different areas around where I lived. But then unfortunately, COVID came. So COVID kind of put a big on training because you couldn't train one to one. Everything was online, which I used to then from my garden in the house when we were right in the middle of COVID. I would teach classes from my garden and do live videos or record videos and then send them to people that was asking me, you know, to teach a class that they can't do anything. They're at home and they don't know what to do. So this went on through COVID, which was great. So I think the exercise and then the actually getting qualified and training people is something that was really important to me, and it really helped me along my journey when I was going through it, when I was right in the middle of the thickness of it. So that is something that really helped me.
Yeah, I think that so the structure, the discipline, the endorphins, all these things are important. I mean, the average person going to the gym, I shouldn't say the average, but someone going to the gym that doesn't have a trauma history and hasn't had mental health sequela, so to speak, um, they, they may not appreciate any of this nuanced discussion about training. Like for me, if you beat up on yourself and you're self-critical and judgmental, which many people are who come out of these experiences, uh, the smallest thing could make someone self-critical. Well, I'll speak for myself. And so, like for me, if I'm slouching around or not taking care of myself, that adds to my mental distress because I'm feeling worse about myself. It affects my self-esteem. So I need it not only for the physical, but when people say you need it for your mental health, that's one of the reasons. So, having that structure is important. The endorphins, your physical health, um, your physiological health, but the mental health. It's important for many reasons. And I think it's just hard to explain that to someone who's not judgmental of themselves, right? So maybe you
Absolutely.
can speak to that a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even when I was training clients, and when I was training clients that were just there because, they had the money, they wanted to spend it on something. Having a personal trainer was a bit of a fashion thing there a few years ago if you had a personal trainer. So some people were just getting a personal trainer for those reasons. And you train that person, which was great. But then when you had another client that had to be in that gym because their mental health wasn't good, because going to the gym helped them get out of bed, it helped them to get out of isolation, it helped with anxiety, or you had somebody that wanted to lose weight. um, to train those two different clients, the difference in that was absolutely, it was so different. The person that had to be in that gym because of, would say, their mental health or the wanted to lose weight, that had to be in that gym to save their life, to train them was like, I used to come out of some sessions with them and there'd be tears in my eyes, like happy tears for that person, because the joy that you would see in their eyes, in their face, that they came to the gym, they were so proud of themselves, they went through the whole session, they, did what I told them, and they came out with that happy feeling that you have after exercise and after, accomplishing something that you didn't even think you get out of bed that morning. So to train clients like that, it used to melt my heart. Or I used to come out and I would be, I get into my car and there'd be tears in my eyes, and it would be just the most amazing feeling in the world. So absolutely, someone that doesn't really need to be in the gym doing that exercise compared to the person that does, it's very hard, as you said, it's very hard to explain to a person that doesn't have any, let's say, mental health issues or trauma as an adult or as a child. It's such a big difference, and it's very hard to explain that to somebody. So I totally agree with you there when you say that.
Well, the other thing too is that when we're growing up, we have the structure of going to school. And unless you go into a job that's very routinized, which I actually did initially after I was in well, during college and after college and then in grad school, etc. But today, the fact that many people are working from home, they have these hybrid lifestyles, they have more free time, maybe they're looking for a job. It's hard because kids can mask the anxiety and depression in certain ways. I shouldn't say mask, but because they have structure throughout a day, in some ways they are in a better position. Now, if you're an adult and you work a job as an entrepreneur, or you work strange hours, or you don't have that same structure, you need to build that structure for yourself. And that was something very hard for me when I moved out of a job that was very routinized. It's like, wow, I don't really feel like doing this, or I can put this off, or I can procrastinate on this thing. And these are all the things that make adult life hard. And like you said, you had your kids to worry about. And so that gave you an anchor. So these are the things they, of course, don't teach us in school, but while we're in school, we benefit from the structure. And then when we get out, we're not always prepared to deal with the things that we've been masking all along. So that's a very interesting part of it. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing now and maybe share some links about, and I'd love to have you back on, by the way. Share some links for maybe your Instagram, what you have going on in the future, what you're doing now, and how you're relating to clients.
Yeah, of course. So I have just actually today received my exam results. So I've just passed all my exams. I'm now accredited, accredited life coach. So my area in that is a wellness coach. So to look after both.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I was so happy because I did my exam, my practical coaching session last week. So I was kind of like waiting every day for this email to come through. So it came through today. So I was like so happy. So yeah, I decided to go to the wellness side of it because not just for your physical, but for your mental mind as well. So the two of them work together. So I'm a wellness coach now. And so I have my Facebook, which I'm still kind of setting up at the minute. I'm launching, I think maybe next Monday, I'm going to do my launch. But I have been doing stuff online already, putting different stuff up and telling my story online and, different, talking about different areas of trauma and self harming, all that type of thing. So I do have my Facebook page, which is Fiona Roddy Wellness Coach. And my Instagram page will be underscore Fiona Roddy underscore. You'll find me there as well. So I'm doing my launch next week. And I have set up also a Facebook community page as well. So I'm just setting that up at the minute. That probably will go live maybe next Monday as well. So that is called Half Woman, Half Warrior, Delicate and Strong. So I've decided to call that community page that because as I was going through my healing, I have a sleeve, a tattoo, a full sleeve on my arm. So part of the sleeve is writing half woman, half warrior, delicate and strong, because that's just me. And days that I was feeling a little bit low or wasn't able to get through, all I had to do was look down at my arm and I have this on my arm and it kind of gave me that little bit of a boost that I needed, that I've come so far, keep going. So I've decided to call the page that half woman, half warrior, delicate and strong. So I'm going to have that page open up soon. So I'm going to be inviting and invite lots of other women to join that. And it's their little community, a safe space for them to talk and share content and kind of just become friends, get friends from it as well. Also, my plans are I also am going to write a book about everything I've been through. So I'm going to just get my business set up first, and then I'm going to kind of go down the road then of writing my book. So I'm really, really, really excited about that. Also, I like to get into maybe doing like guided meditations, the voiceovers for guided meditations, because that's what's helped me so much through my healing is the meditations. And also I am going to start doing kind of a yoga style class, more like a relaxation yoga type of class. So I'm going to set that up now in the next few weeks as well, and maybe once a week, even if it's just for women to come together, just for the social kind of aspect of it, but also you will be kind of relaxing as well and doing the yoga, a little bit of meditation at the end as well. So it's something really nice first you to do maybe of a Saturday morning after a busy week. So I have a few things that I'm kind of in the pipeline that I'm kind of getting up and running at the minute. So I'm kind of a busy bee at the minute.
Well, thank you. It was really a pleasure having you on here. I love the Irish accent. I love the Irish accent. I don't get to hear many Irish speak, although some of my good friends are British or English. That's how I should describe
Yeah,
it, right? So,
yeah.
well, thank you so much for being on the program. And I love to have you back on at some point. And I hope people will check out your links. And I will share this with you when I get it edited or uploaded, rather. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Welcome.